Hello, and welcome to the Channel of Stories. Dear listeners, before we start the story, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like and share in the comments where you are from. Thank you. Here we go.
They say love is supposed to feel safe. Ours felt like running through fire with no way back. But I would have done it again, every chase, every bruise, every lie, just to have him look at me the way he did when we thought we wouldn't make it. I met Leo in the worst place imaginable, a backroom poker game in Budapest, where no one used real names and everyone carried something sharp. I was there with someone else, someone dangerous. Leo was running cons, or so I thought. But the second our eyes met, it felt like we already knew how this story would go, fast, stupid, and impossible to walk away from. We didn't plan to run together. But one night, after a deal went sideways and bullets hit the stone wall behind us, he grabbed my hand without hesitation and said, "Come with me. Or stay and die." I chose him. We ran through side streets and over rooftops, slept in train stations and cheap hostels. Every night, we were hunted. Every morning, we woke up still wanting each other more. Danger made everything sharper, his hands on my skin, his breath against my neck, the way he said my name like it was both a warning and a promise. One night in an abandoned vineyard in Croatia, he kissed me like it was the last thing we'd ever do. The stars were out. My heart was wrecked. I told him I didn't trust anyone. He said, "Then trust the way I look at you. That's real." We made love on a floor of old blankets and broken crates, with our guns within reach and the world falling apart just outside. They caught up with us in Marseille. We split up. He said, "If they get me, disappear. Forget this." I ran. I waited. Then one night, weeks later, I got a message. 3 words, "Come to Florence." He was standing by a fountain, same crooked grin, scar on his lip, and eyes that said, "I knew you'd come." I hit him. Then kissed him. Then we vanished, together this time, on our terms. Now we live quiet. Mostly. He grows tomatoes. I paint. Some nights I still wake up expecting gunfire. But then I roll over and he's there, warm, alive, laughing softly in his sleep. I used to think love was supposed to feel safe. But now I know, real love feels like survival. And he is the safest danger I've ever known. Some stories are written in blood and fire. But if you survive them together, that's the kind worth keeping. The poker room in Budapest smelled like sweat, cigar smoke, and desperation. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be across town, keeping my head low, following a man who knew too much about my past. But the job changed. It always did. That night, I was with Victor, tall, cruel, always armed. I played the part of bored girlfriend while he traded secrets for chips. I wore red lipstick I hated and heels that made me taller than I liked. I was someone else, and I was good at it. And then I saw him. Leo. He wore the kind of smirk that came from surviving too much and trusting too little. His eyes locked onto mine across the table like he recognized me, or maybe recognized the ache under my mask. He raised one brow, almost imperceptibly. It was the first time I forgot what role I was supposed to play. There was something about him, the way he shuffled his chips, never blinking, fingers scarred and twitchy. He had the coolness of a con artist, but the weight of someone who'd seen real things. Not just gambling debts and backroom deals, but war, maybe. Loss. That kind of grief never left a person. Victor didn't notice him. But I did. And Leo noticed me back. The game grew tense. Stakes climbed. Victor was losing, not just money, but temper. When he excused himself to the bathroom, Leo leaned across the table. "You look like you don't belong here." "Neither do you." He smiled. "I think we might be the same kind of wrong." It was a ridiculous line. But my heart stuttered all the same. When Victor returned, something was different. The room thickened. Eyes darted. Someone's hand slipped under the table. I knew what was coming. So did Leo. And that's when everything changed. A man by the bar shifted his jacket and I saw the glint of metal. Another near the exit put his hand to his ear. The room didn't breathe. Leo stood suddenly, his chair screeching back with an ugly sound. The dealer flinched. Then, chaos. Shouting in Hungarian. A table flipped. Gunfire cracked like bone breaking. I ducked. Leo moved, fast, like he'd done this before. Grabbed my wrist and yanked me behind a pillar as bullets tore through the velvet curtain. People screamed. Someone collapsed near the bar. Leo looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We have exactly 10 seconds. You in?" I nodded, breathless. He shoved open the back door and we were gone. We didn't plan to run together. I didn't even know his last name. But when bullets hit the wall behind us and Victor shouted for blood, Leo grabbed my hand. "Come with me. Or stay and die." We ran. Through alleys, over fences, through the stench of a city that never closed its eyes. Sirens in the distance. A car alarm howling. The sky cracked above us, spring rain mixing with sweat. We ducked into a butcher shop. Leo yanked open a back freezer and pulled me in. Cold slammed my skin. I could hear my pulse in my ears. He crouched low, breath fogging. "They won't check here." "Not yet." "Who the hell are you?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Just watched the door. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. When we emerged, soaked and shivering, the city looked the same but everything had changed. We grabbed passports from a locker under the station. One of his aliases was Matteo. Mine was Lena. We were reborn. By morning, we were in a hostel in Vienna, clothes wet from the Danube, hearts pounding. We didn't sleep. We didn't talk. We just breathed. He had a black eye by then. I hadn't even noticed when it happened. I pulled out the med kit I'd always carried and patched him up on a bench near the river. He didn't flinch. "I'm used to worse," he said. "Once got shot in the thigh in Palermo and stitched it up with fishing line." I didn't laugh. I was watching his hands, steady, careful. Not the hands of a killer, but someone who'd had to survive long enough to be mistaken for one. At a cafe, we shared a roll and stole glances. I noticed he never sat with his back to the door. Neither did I. We weren't lovers. Not yet. We weren't allies either. We were two feral animals in the same forest, figuring out if the other was predator or prey. "Why did you help me?" I asked. He took a sip of his bitter coffee, eyes unreadable. "Because you looked like you'd rather die than go back with him." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. That night, in the narrow twin beds of the hostel, I turned to face the wall, trying not to care if I'd wake up alone. But when the sun rose, he was still there. Trains became our safe place. No names, no questions. Just the rhythm of tracks and the occasional conductor we could bribe. We made it to Zagreb. Then to Split. Our only rule was no staying more than 2 nights. Each time I thought he might vanish in the morning, Leo was there. Buying coffee with fake coins, smiling like it was all some wild joke. One night, while I stitched a cut on his shoulder, I asked, "Why are you still with me?" He said, "Because I don't know how not to be." He would sleep against the window, face lit by street lamps we passed. I watched him sometimes, the way he twitched in his sleep, like he was running even in dreams. I wanted to ask what haunted him, but I never did. In a quiet town in Slovenia, we watched a film in a tiny theater, the subtitles mismatched, the reel scratched. We laughed so hard my ribs hurt. We held hands walking out, not caring who saw. In a hostel kitchen, he taught me how to make lentils taste like a feast. He played guitar with 3 strings missing. I danced barefoot on cracked tiles. Why do you look at me like that? I asked once, caught under his gaze. Because you look like you're about to disappear, he said. I didn't answer. I wasn't sure he was wrong. We shared headphones on an overnight train. He played me music I'd never heard, stuff with strange rhythms and haunting lyrics. I fell asleep with my head on his shoulder, his heartbeat louder than the engine. One morning, in a coastal town whose name I forgot the moment we left, we woke to the sound of arguing downstairs. Leo moved first, bare feet quiet as wind. I followed with a knife in my boot and adrenaline humming. It was nothing. Just a landlord fighting with a vendor. But the way Leo had shielded me, how his jaw locked, how his fingers brushed mine after, that stuck. Later that day, I caught him staring at the sea like he was counting all the ways we might get away. This doesn't end well, does it? I asked. No, he said. But it might not end badly either. We didn't speak the rest of the afternoon. But that night, we shared a bottle of plum brandy and laughed until the stars blurred. It was old. Forgotten. Vines dry and tangled under a Croatian moon. We broke in through a cracked cellar door and made camp with a pile of old blankets. I didn't ask where he got the wine. He didn't ask what I was running from. Under stars and silence, he kissed me. Like it was the first and last time. When I pulled away, I whispered, I don't trust anyone. He touched my face, thumb against the scar no one ever asked about. Then trust the way I look at you. That's real. We drank. We laughed. I cried a little, maybe from the wine, maybe from the weight of it all. He told me about a brother he lost. Not in war, not in peace. Just lost. We made love on a floor of old blankets and broken crates, with our guns within reach and the world falling apart just outside. Afterward, I watched the shadows shift across his back, memorizing the shape of him. I wish I met you before everything went sideways, I murmured. He pulled me closer. If we had, you wouldn't have looked at me twice. He wasn't wrong. There were mice in the rafters and a leaking windowpane, and yet I'd never felt safer. I traced the outline of his collarbone, the small nick in his shoulder from a bullet he said barely grazed him. We talked long into the night. About childhoods that didn't feel like stories. About how sometimes we couldn't remember what our real voices sounded like anymore. He told me I laughed like someone who wasn't sure they were allowed to. I told him he looked like someone waiting for the world to fall in again. I hate how right this feels, I said. I hate that I can't imagine walking away, he replied. Outside, something rustled in the vines. We froze, instincts on fire. But it was just a fox. Still, neither of us slept much. We kept watch in shifts, even though nothing ever came. By morning, the wine was gone. The fire was cold. But his hand was still in mine. And I knew, despite every alarm in my head, I wouldn't be able to leave him. They caught up to us outside a butcher shop. Leo shoved the map into my coat. If they get me, disappear. Forget this. He didn't say goodbye. I ran. Blood on my sleeve. Breath gone. I didn't stop until I crossed into Spain. Then I waited. Marseille burned behind me. The news didn't mention us, just a robbery gone wrong. But I knew who the bodies were. And I knew they were meant for us. I dyed my hair. Changed my walk. Slept with a knife under my pillow. But nothing felt safe. Not without him. I wrote him letters I never sent. One said, I hate you for staying. Another said, I would have stayed too. I lived in an attic for a while, taking photos of strangers and selling them to tourists. I kept checking my phone, even though I had changed the SIM twice. I started seeing shadows that didn't move and hearing names that weren't mine. I visited train stations for no reason. Took different routes home. Spoke to no one longer than a minute. Loneliness started to feel like a second skin. Then, one night, I dreamed of Leo, standing in fire, smiling like it was a game. I woke up shaking, the taste of ash in my throat. I considered giving up. Starting over in some quiet town. Forgetting the way his fingers brushed my wrist when we walked side by side. But forgetting wasn't something I was built for. I kept a burner phone alive just in case. Changed its number every week. Still, every night before bed, I checked it. Then came the message. 3 words, come to Florence. No signature. No timestamp. Just that. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Then I packed a bag with the bare minimum, cash, forged IDs, a small pistol. I bought a train ticket the next morning. Not because I trusted him, but because I couldn't imagine not going. Weeks passed. Then months. I painted in an attic studio above a bakery. It was the first time I stopped running, even if only physically. Then came the message, come to Florence. 3 words. No name. But I knew. He stood by a fountain in the old square, sun bleeding through his curls, scar still on his lip. His smile crooked. I hit him. Hard. Then kissed him harder. He didn't flinch. Just held me. We didn't speak for 5 minutes. Then he whispered, I missed you like breath. He had a limp now. I didn't ask why. He didn't offer it. We checked into a place above a wine bar. He fell asleep before me, mouth open slightly, hand still curled around mine. The next morning, we walked the streets like tourists. Ate gelato. Took pictures. Laughed. Like we weren't marked people. He bought me a scarf I didn't need. I drew his face in a sketchpad I hadn't touched in weeks. It was like falling again, but slower. Wiser. Scarred. We watched street performers along the Arno. He made up fake histories for every statue we passed. I told him about the nightmares. He didn't flinch. Just wrapped an arm around my shoulder like that might be enough. That night, he cooked pasta in the tiny kitchenette. It was burned, too salty, and perfect. Are you staying this time? I asked. I never wanted to leave. We lay on the narrow bed, limbs tangled, staring at the ceiling like it might tell us how long we had. I thought you were dead, I whispered. I wanted to be, he replied, so softly I almost missed it. He didn't talk about Marseille, but I saw it in the way he jumped at sudden sounds. In the way he kept checking the door. He told me he'd left a trail only I could follow. And I had. The next morning, we were gone again, together this time. Florence was just a page in a chapter neither of us wanted to reread. But it was ours. We found a small cottage outside Siena. He grew tomatoes. I painted walls that still smelled of old secrets. We didn't speak of Budapest, of Victor, of the nights we heard footsteps that weren't there. But some nights, I woke in a cold sweat. Leo would turn, eyes half closed. Still here, he'd whisper. And I'd believe him. Our life settled into strange rhythm. He repaired bicycles for tourists and flirted with old women at the market. I taught watercolor to kids whose parents didn't know my real name. We made love slowly, with all the fire burned down to coals. But there was always a bag packed. Just in case. We had routines. Tuesday was pasta night. Sundays we went to the hilltop to drink wine and watch the sky turn gold. Leo started whittling again. Said it helped him think. I started painting more faces. His face. Over and over. In town, they called us the quiet couple. Mysterious. Kind. They didn't know how much we bled to get here. We hosted no guests. Answered no questions. Burned letters before reading them if the paper didn't smell right. Once a month, we went completely dark, no phones, no lights, no sound. We listened to the forest breathe and tried to believe we were alone. On my birthday, he gave me a charm with no inscription. "It's for a name you haven't picked yet," he said. I cried harder than I meant to. We weren't rebuilding. We were reinventing. Some nights we lay in silence, the kind that wasn't empty but earned. I'd trace circles on his chest and imagine roots growing from us into the floorboards. He read aloud sometimes, old spy novels or cookbooks in bad Italian accents. I laughed too hard, and he'd pretend to be offended. I painted sunflowers on the bedroom door. He carved a dove into the edge of our table. Nothing we made was perfect. But it was ours. They never really left us. Letters came. People asked questions. A drone buzzed over the field once. We were never fully safe. But we were together. Leo kept a pistol in the drawer. I kept cash under the floorboard. Just in case. But we laughed. We danced in the kitchen. We read old novels out loud on rainy days. And for a while, it was enough. Then one afternoon, a man came into the bicycle shop and asked too many questions. Leo came home silent. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. He started checking the locks again. Counting the shadows outside. I didn't ask. He didn't tell. But that night, we slept with our shoes on. The next morning, I saw a symbol carved into the shed. One I hadn't seen since Marseille. We didn't panic. Not out loud. We just moved through the next few days like ghosts in our own house, lights off, curtains drawn, food eaten cold from the can. I caught Leo burning a stack of documents in the garden. He didn't look up. "We were careless," he said. "It happens." I asked if we needed to run. "Not yet," he said. "But don't unpack anything new." He started sleeping on the couch. Said he didn't want me near the windows. I didn't argue. In town, we smiled tighter. Spoke shorter. Walked with our heads down. We left the dog at a neighbor's, just in case. I kept painting, but the canvases changed. More shadows. More figures without faces. One night, I found Leo in the vineyard, pacing. He had the look he used to get in train stations, that half-waiting, half-daring look. "I keep thinking I see him," he muttered. I didn't need to ask who. I stood beside him, quiet. Then said the one thing I knew would ground us both, "Still here." His shoulders dropped. He turned. And for a moment, the ghosts faded. But we knew better. He came back, Victor. Different name, same eyes. He found us in a market. Said my name like a curse. Leo stepped between us, fingers twitching toward the knife he still carried like a ghost. But Victor smiled. "Not today. Just wanted to see if you'd come running." We didn't. We walked home, silent. Then burned everything we couldn't carry. It was time to vanish again. I cried that night. Not from fear, from grief. Grief for the quiet we'd built. The dinners. The tomato vines. The warm nights. Leo held me. "We can make quiet anywhere," he said. But it was never the same. We hitchhiked south. Slept on benches. Paid in stories and cigarettes. In Naples, we stayed with an old friend of Leo's who owed him a favor. The man didn't ask questions. Just handed over keys and disappeared. We laid low. I painted by candlelight. Leo started writing again, notebooks full of plans, maps, escape routes. We were ghosts before anyone could catch us. I missed our garden. The sound of wind through that crooked shutter. The way Leo used to hum when he thought no one was listening. We changed names again. This time we were Tomas and Isa. We spoke Spanish in public and Russian in private. We trusted no one, not even each other sometimes. But at night, in the smallest moments, sharing a stolen orange, tracing scars with silent fingertips, we remembered why we hadn't quit. The last straw was the package. No return address. Inside, a photo of me, from behind, taken in the vineyard. He was watching. "I want to kill him," I whispered. "So do I," Leo said. "But we don't get to be those people anymore." "Then who are we?" He didn't answer. Just packed a bag. And burned the photo. We left behind everything but a backpack and each other. Now we live in Portugal, in a town too small for secrets. Leo works with boats. I paint ocean scenes that always include shadows no one else sees. Sometimes I still think of Budapest. Of the moment his hand closed over mine and pulled me into the unknown. They say love is supposed to feel safe. But for me, love is Leo's voice in the dark. His laugh over breakfast. The way he says my name like it matters. Some stories are written in blood and fire. But if you survive them together? That's the kind worth keeping. He still flirts with me like we just met. I still steal his shirts and never give them back. Sometimes we dance in the kitchen at midnight. Sometimes we sit in silence and let the sea talk. One night, I told him I missed the danger. He smiled, kissed my neck, and said, we were the danger. And I believed him. Because even now, when the world feels too still, I remember what it cost to get here. What it meant to choose each other again and again, even when the fire closed in. We live at the edge of things. But we live. Together. There are still rules. We keep phones clean. No digital footprints. No real names in ledgers or contracts. We move every 2 years. Leave nothing behind except memories and the occasional cigarette burn in a wooden floorboard. I keep a small box in the back of a drawer, things from the old lives, a poker chip, a scarf, the corner of a photo I tore in half. I only open it when I'm certain we're alone. Leo still wakes in the middle of the night sometimes. I hold him until his breathing slows. We still fight. Still say stupid things when we're tired and scared. But now, we come back from it. Every time. He proposed once, on a beach full of strangers. No ring. No plan. Just said, I want all my mornings to start with you annoyed at my snoring. I laughed so hard I cried. We never married. Didn't need to. We're already bound. By fire. By flight. By the edge of who we used to be. And who we still might become.